All right, welcome everybody. This is Served, brought to you by Chase. I am Andy. This is my friend Jon Wertheim. Producer Mike is in the house. And Jon, there's something a little different about this show because we have other people. I'm not in my garage like I normally am. That laughter you hear is not a track. We are doing a live show for the Cincinnati Open. This is cool. This is awesome. So producer Mike is from Cincinnati.
Yes.
And so, yeah.
The real Queen City.
Yeah, and so this is amazing because I know some of you listen on the audio on Spotify or Apple or wherever you get your podcast. For those who can't see this, there are actually people here.
Lots of people.
which is cool for us. We had this dumb idea back in late last year, and we started at the end of January, post-Australian Open, that there was no place to really go on an average Tuesday to get a look behind the curtain, to consume some tennis information. Everything in the tennis world was kind of around live events, around the tournaments, and we said, you know what, let's have some longer conversations every week. Hopefully people will react. So we thank you, Cincinnati, for coming out. This is really cool for us. And so it's amazing because there are people here, and I didn't know, Mike, I didn't know you had this much family.
A lot of cousins. There's a few of them here. There's a couple here that I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
This is, okay, so just round of applause here real quick. Just time out. I want to do a game real quick. So Mike's family, applaud now.
Well, that's pretty good.
Okay, now, not Mike's family, applaud now.
It's the Served family.
It's
the Served family.
See, Vegas had it being the opposite reaction. So this is cool for us, but this is a place that was so special to me in my career over the years. I was lucky enough to play some of my favorite matches here, and was lucky enough to win twice, which was really cool. Jon Wertheim was actually, he was going to win once too, but then it turned out he's not that athletic.
Yeah. Well, wait till you see Berrettini.
Yeah, exactly. JW, as we look forward to this year, it's a little weird because of the Olympics and what is always a packed schedule in tennis. There's not a lot of other sports that play 11 months a year. But even more so, we go French Open, straight into Wimbledon, straight into the Olympics, straight into Canada. So finals of the Olympics is on Sunday. A Masters 1000 in Canada. Our brethren to the north starts on the next Monday. Cincinnati after that, all roads leading to the U.S. Open. What do we expect? Obviously, that guy Djokovic pulled out, which is, no booing. We understand. We get it. But there is a price to pay with such a packed schedule, and a lot of times that leads to not only who's there, but who is not there. What's your take on what we've seen so far in Canada, and what do we have to look forward to in Cincinnati?
Yeah, first, thanks everyone. This is really quite heartening and overwhelming. Thanks to Sonder. We took down the milk. See, we've got our beverages here.
Oh, that's embarrassing.
And I'm never drinking.
Look at that sign.
I'm never drinking milk again.
You're going to embarrass our guest.
Yeah, seriously. Well, for one thing, how happy are we that tennis is in Cincinnati, staying in Cincinnati, and this event is only going to grow?
This is cool, and so something we don't normally have to deal with on our show when you're doing it from your living room, I'm doing it from either a basement or garage, is guests just kind of walking into the middle of the show. This is kind of a fun thing, but let's give a great welcome to a new friend of the show, Metteo Berrettini, everybody. So let's, So as we sit down, let's just acknowledge the elephant in the room for a second, okay? I think we should just rip the Band-Aid off. And if this gets too personal or it's too heavy, just let me know. We can edit it out. Have you always been so ugly, and how did you overcome it? Is that how was it tough? Has it been tough? Is it harder than we would understand?
No, believe it or not, when
He's about to give us the ugly duckling story, right? When I was a kid. Here we go.
No. When I was born, I was obviously for my grandma and for my mom, I was the most beautiful kid.
Yeah.
And my brother was born, and that was a problem, you know.
Yeah.
And he's actually blonde with green eyes. So,
Oh.
you know, and we weren't sure about, you know, but
Yeah.
I look like my mom, so I'm safe. But then growing up, certain point, I don't know, just something changed. The beard started to grow.
I was about to ask, were you born with a beard?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's fantastic. I'm a little
I
intimidated.
actually got my first beer when I was 22, I think. I was pretty late. Yeah.
Well, that was a good move. It looks great. In all seriousness, I know that the last few years have had some tough points with injuries. I remember kind of seeing you at scale for the first time when you made that run to the semis in New York, where it went from a name you would hear, you would see some highlights to, oh shit, this guy's like here for good and he's legit. Lose to Rafa there, win Queens a couple times. We all remember the Wimbledon final that you were in, and then injuries set in a little bit. Walk us through kind of the highs and lows, and we kind of only see players when they pop back onto our radar, right? We remember a Wimbledon final, then we get entertained by other players while he's going through low moments, rehab, recovery. And then once you overcome those things, then you have to remember that you have to be good at tennis again also. So walk us through the last couple of years and how they led to the point where you've won 2 tournaments in the last month, which is pretty cool.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, it's been a tough 2 years, I would say. So many injuries, so many tough moments. And since I was really young, I got a lot of injuries, you know, so I always consider myself like someone that was good at coming back. And I had that kind of like superpower, I would say, you know, like I got a hand surgery when I was best ranking, when I was number 6 in the world, 2022. And right after I won Stuttgart, Queens back-to-back.
Yep.
And then in Wimbledon I was feeling great. I remember practicing with Rafa and on center court, and I was hitting the ball unbelievable. And I told my coach, I just have to be there physically because mentally and tennis-wise I'm feeling unbelievable. Next day I had COVID, so it was that was tough. And it wasn't about obviously COVID, but it was about feeling really sick. So I felt like I was unlucky in a way, you know, like in the best moments of my career, I couldn't. I qualified for Turin, the finals, ATP finals, and then I got, you know, a strain in my ab. So, you know, so many moments, and you know how important it is to just be consistent in tennis, you know, like to play week after week and not doing, you know, few weeks and then off and then a few weeks on, a few weeks off. It's really tough to get a momentum going. And then at a certain point, I started to doubt about my body. You know, like you said, oh, something's gonna happen. You know, and so much pressure on the tournaments that I was playing because I didn't want to lose my ranking. You know, so I was putting a lot of pressure on my shoulders, and it led up to, too much pressure. And at a certain point, I had to take some time off to just chill and started from the bottom, I would say, and then finding the joy for tennis, and now it's back. So it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy.
It's interesting, and it's kind of a testament to what a quality player you are. Is that when we were told that you might be interested in coming on the show, I was like, that's great. And in my mind, I'm going, oh, it's been a long road back. I look up the ranking, and I was surprised. I know you had just won 2 tournaments, but the really, really good players, you feel like they've been away for a while. This guy's now he's back. He's top 40 in the world again. I mean, that's not nothing. What was interesting is we said hello quickly, and we haven't spent any time together, but we said hello quickly, And you were kind of walking me through the challenges of scheduling, where now you're finally back to that place after a couple of years of the body not delivering for you, of you're playing great again, winning back-to-back tournaments post-Wimbledon. But now it's like I'm guessing all you want to do is play because you have that momentum back. How are you kind of dealing with the prospect of scheduling heavily, because you can't pick and choose when you play well? You can prepare for when it comes and you find that rhythm, but it's not something like I hear commentators too often. It's like, well, he just turns it up when he needs to. No, if we could just choose, we would just choose to play well all the time, right? But
the big tournaments.
walk us through kind of that give and take between trying to maintain health, but also wanting to play as much as you can because you've been off over the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's teamwork. It's really important, like with your coach, with your physios, with your doctors, and just it's really easy, and you know that better than me probably. When you're feeling great, just you want to keep playing, know, and it's really tough to stop and say, okay, now I have to practice, because it's really important to play matches, because you can practice a lot, but what matches give you, it's so different, like you're so sore after the first match after a long time. So it's important to play, but it's also important to train, and it's important to get off the tournaments for a little bit, like your mind just doesn't rest when you're out, when you're just, for example, in US playing for a month. It's maybe you play 3 matches, but it's exhausting being on the road, practicing and stuff. So you have to be smart. You have to see what happened in the past. You have to learn from your mistakes and from your body. I feel when my body is tired. I feel when for example, when I don't get enough sleep because I'm nervous. It's a moment where, my body struggles a little bit. So, I have to be really good at adjusting all these things. And so luckily, all these bad injuries, it taught me something. So now I'm more wise, I would say.
I want to ask you, by the way, to your point, is there one player who no seed is going to want to play at the U.S. Open?
Oh, yeah.
This is a dangerous man.
I actually ask your question, then I want to actually dive into that a little bit further.
Well, I want to ask you about coming here. This city was built on 7 hills, but it is not maybe not like your Rome.
A little bit different than Rome. But.
Andy, let's talk about that.
No offense, guys, but...
The food's better here.
Yeah.
Food
is better.
Skyline, baby.
We have one really good thing that is food.
That's true.
This is different from other places on tour, and for a lot of players, Andy won here twice. As Mike and I are both from around here, so it's very familiar. This is a great place to hold a tournament like this, but it's very different. You don't have the yachts in the Mediterranean that you have at Monte-Carlo. How do you process this event? What is it like for you coming here to Southwest Ohio and playing tennis for a week, next year 2 weeks? What is this event like for you?
It's part of our job. First of all, obviously, we always say we're kind of nomads, like we go all around the world playing and adjusting to the conditions. And I feel like the tournament changed in a way also in the last years, the surface, the conditions and stuff. I remember coming here first time in 2019, and the court was way more rough, and now it's like seems like to be faster, more bouncy. That's my feeling. I don't know, but that's the tricky part when you're traveling, when you're playing different events throughout the year. So coming here, depending about the weather. Yesterday was crazy humid, and I feel like it was completely different than today. So you have to adjust the tension of the strings, everything, how much you drink, what you eat. It's not easy. It's not easy. So. But what can I say? It's from the very first time I felt like a lot of support here, which was surprising because I was like, I'm Italian in Cincinnati, but it was special. And I don't know if they're clapping because they're happy or they're drunk, but or because they actually like me for real. So
everything you said is spot on. The only thing that I kind of slightly disagree with is that you can be happy and drunk.
Sure.
We don't have to choose sides.
No beer for me here today, guys. No beer.
I'll tell you something. When you'd be going into a Grand Slam and seeded more often than I wasn't, there were always those 3 or 4 guys that you're like, I don't want to play that person in the first couple of rounds. And I know you probably were on the other side of that when you were 6 in the world. Now, you are that guy going into the U.S. Open. You are that pain in the ass for those other players. How is your mentality different, kind of protecting a seed versus going in, knowing that I don't care who you are. I don't care if your name is Carlos. I don't care if your name is Novak. You don't want to see him in the first round of the U.S. Open, especially with momentum.
Yeah, it's definitely different, you know. Like, I remember when I was seated, I was studying a little bit the draw, the possibilities, you know. Like, you knew, I mean, I feel like level in tennis right now is really high, so it doesn't matter who you play. Because one of the toughest rounds that I had in my life were first, second, third round, you know, like really tough matches. But, I mean, you could see it in Wimbledon. I played Yannick second round, and it was a great match. I felt like it was a really, like, I mean, I played not as many as you, but I played semifinals in Slam, quarterfinals in Slam, and I felt like the level was pretty high, and it was the second round. So hopefully it's not going to happen again for both of us. But yeah, it's definitely different. You have to be ready from the first day. So fingers crossed, I guess.
I think there are about 32 players that hope you get to like the quarters this week, so then they don't have to deal with you first round of the U.S. Open. Speaking of happy and drunk and you playing Yannick, obvious segue opportunity. This has no point. It's just anecdotal. I told him before, I was in Italy with our family this summer. First time, kids 8 and 6. They traveled. They don't act like total psychopaths for the first time, so that was a plus. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate you. Thank you. You get it. But I remember being in Florence after a beautiful evening, food. The rumors are true. It's great. And I remember coming back, and I was happy and drunk and watching that match in your home country with you versus Yannick. And I said, this is a quarterfinal match. The way the intensity, he didn't want, you could tell he doesn't emote a ton, right? Yannick isn't a guy who wins a first round match and, you know, has to kind of say hello to, you know, the 8 sides of the stadium. And that meant a lot to him. Being an Italian player now has to be pretty cool, you know, maybe even better than it was, let's say, 2019 when you broke out, where you didn't have all the company that you have now with Paolini and with Yannick, yourself, Musetti playing great again. Talk about this moment, and I get goosebumps talking about it because it does feel like a moment. Talk about this moment in Italian tennis and the pride that you have for kind of maybe being the first one to kind of break out and to say, you know what, we can establish ourselves with this newer generation towards the top of the game. No disrespect to great players like Panetta and Vinci, because they do, but specifically on the men's side, this moment in Italian tennis, you have to feel like you had a little bit to do with it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's, in a way, I had a different path comparing to Yannick and Lorenzo Musetti. You know, they're still so young. When I had their age, I was their age. I wasn't even top 100, I think, so it was different, completely different. But at the same time, it just, in Italy now, it's crazy. And you guys know, like, we are a soccer country, you know, like soccer is the sport.
By the way, the most gracious thing that he will ever do in his life is call it soccer, specifically for us.
I did it for you guys. I did it for you.
That might be the nicest thing I've ever seen someone do.
I did it for you, because otherwise it would have been like, football? What? But, and right now I feel like when there is a big match, like me against Yannick, or Lorenzo that was playing for bronze medal, or Yannick the finals in the Australian Open, we won Davis Cup last year, the country stops for a little bit, you know, and this makes me feeling unbelievable proud, because I think we're coming a long way. We're not like you guys in US that, you know, like you and all the past champions that you had, the great players that you have right now. So it's definitely something that makes me feel proud, and I think the best is yet to come, because these guys are so young, and we're helping each other to just play better and better. And in a way, I think the first guy that really made a big step was Marco Cecchinato in 2018. Mm-hmm. You remember his run?
The semis of Roland Garros.
Exactly.
Yep.
And after that, everybody kind of like looked into himself and said, like, I think I can do it. Because this guy was, playing with him, and I was practicing with him, winning, losing. But I was like, why not me? And after that, Fabio won in Monte-Carlo, and I qualified for the finals, made semis in US Open, and after that I was just, adding results, and I think that's really important for the sport, Italian sport in general.
We're talking about you as one of the godfathers of Italian. You're only 28. He said he got a beard when he was 22.
I'm the old one.
No, the beard only was 6 years ago. 28 years old.
Sure.
We just had the gold medalist at the Olympics last week is like 37. You got. What does the next decade look like for you? What are the goals here?
Yeah, I mean, talking about Novak and what he achieved last week, it's like unbelievable. I get goosebumps.
Yeah.
I don't know how he does it. And he's probably a cyborg also for the fact that at 37, he's still playing at that level, Like, it's unbelievable. And I don't know if I'm going to still playing at 37. Looking at my history of injuries, I don't know. But hopefully, the most important thing is, like, playing when you're feeling is the right thing to do for you. I don't like the thought about playing just because you don't know what to do, and which is, I think, something that happens quite a lot, especially when you've been playing your whole life and at a certain point or you feel like, okay, I'm going to stop, and you don't know what to do, like you feel empty, a little bit. And so I just want to keep playing until I feel it's the right thing for me, and keep enjoying like I'm doing right now, and hopefully in the next couple of years, maybe lifting a big trophy wouldn't be bad, and then we'd see.
I think we all in this room hope that you get that trophy. One more thing I want to touch on, because I like the thought of what Netflix was trying to do with Breakpoint, and you were obviously one of the people that were featured. Tell us about that experience, good, bad. Would you choose to do it again, or do you regret doing it?
Here, one last thing, Andy.
Just have a sip. You'll be fine. It's going to be fun.
No. Personally, it was a good experience. Before doing it, I was like, if I do it all the way. So
Yep.
I'm not going to cut anything, unless I'm too pissed. I don't want to talk to anybody, even my coach. Then, I don't like cameras around me. But I was like, and you guys could see it, my room was a mess, and I didn't. I told them, okay, and they were like, oh, we love it. Of course you love it.
Yeah.
But I was a little bit, not upset, but I was a little bit like, they follow me a lot that year, and they only, showed like that part of the year, and I was like, it could have been better, I think, and better and show more. But I also know that they got a lot of players, so it wasn't easy. Doing it again, probably not. Looking at just for the result, like I didn't like. I think what you're doing great in this podcast is also saying kind of like. Talking about tennis behind the scenes, like, and I think there is so much that has to be shown about that, and which is the cool part. Everybody can see the results, everybody can see the matches, but I think the best part is behind the scenes. What happens and all the things that are happening, the traveling, the doubts that you have. Like, for example, that year in Australia that I made semis. Crazy thing happened like during the tournament, which they kind of like recorded, and I got 2 MRIs during the 2 weeks because I thought I got injured. I twisted my ankle. I got stomach pain for 2 matches. Like I was taking pills during the match. Otherwise, I needed to go to the toilet.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, are you talking?
You guys got it?
So here in Cincinnati, we call that the shits.
Yeah. I got the shits.
Yeah.
Twice, and I'm not saying that it would be cool to talk about the shits on a TV show, but talking about all the difficulties about making a semis and a Grand Slam, I think would be pretty cool. And but yeah, I hope this answered the question.
I hope, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, they cancel. I hate to tell you, they canceled the show.
Yeah. That's why I said
I
it.
thought you might do the semis again. I think she
Yeah.
wants you to.
That's the goal.
Well, they asked me, it was going to be released in like 10 days, and they asked me to panic come comment. I didn't know what I was doing. I said no to season 2, just the commentary, whatever. But I was just curious because I think what you said without saying it, and maybe I'll say it for him, is that if you follow someone for a year, you better get the gritty stuff, the good stuff, and not the puff pieces. And so when I'm watching, people say, did you like it? I said, I like the idea of it. But I also think it was too many players, too many storylines. If you do an entrance interview, everyone wants to be number one. Everyone wants to win a Grand Slam. Everyone said the same thing. But then how they go about their processes is oftentimes completely different. And in my mind, that's where the magic of the show was lost. Producer Mike, your history is in documentaries, sports shows. What did you think about it? Be honest. We're not in danger of getting a Netflix show anytime soon.
Yeah, we're definitely not in danger of any of that. Honestly, I think you hit it all on the head. I think it was just too broad. And I think if you ask somebody to sacrifice so much of their time and have cameras around them all the time, you should be showing a lot of that. And I don't think you should just be selecting whatever best fits what you think a demo is in like a focus group room. And I feel like that's what a lot of your story was. And honestly, I'd love to see the stuff that they cut out because I think following somebody for that long, it's seeing the grit and determination of what they sacrifice is what I'm interested in.
Let's do this because I have this. I can't get out of like having once been a player, and I know that there's a schedule and there's food that needs to be eaten, practice that needs to be done. Metteo, thank you for being our guest on our first live show. I want now. All of you, what I want is for all of you, if you are at the tennis this week and this man is on the schedule, I want you to go and cheer your asses off. Metteo Berrettini. Here's a live show. Bob, come sit with us, man. Everyone wants a hug from Metteo first. All right, Bob Moran, Cincinnati. All right, so you're going, all right, who the hell is this guy we're cheering for? So let me explain. So Bob Moran, part of the BMO group, part of the group that kept this tournament ultimately in Cincinnati.
It's a standing O for that.
That's it. You got. They are happy about that. Bob, thanks for setting this show up. We had a crazy idea where they wanted to bring us up, playing an exhibition tomorrow with a guy named John Isner, a gentleman named Andre Agassi. Yep. And my good friend Marty Fish pulled out. Oh, I know, he pulled out. I'm always the last to know everything, by the way, and we're going to get to all the important stuff you have to say here in just a second. But I'm always the last person to know everything. I text Marty, I'm like, hey, buddy, what are you doing for dinner? He's like, I'm not coming. I was like, all right. Anyway, so filling in, is this official yet? Are we allowed to talk about who's filling in yet or no?
You negotiated a damn deal. So.
Okay. Filling in, and I did, at that point I thought I was negotiating for my partner. And then it got flipped, but Tommy Paul is going to step in tomorrow, which would be pretty cool. And so I'll tell you, Bob, I'll tell you exactly how, I want to hear your side of things, and then we're going to get into the macro. What's the future like for this tournament in Cincy? But I'll just tell you how this went down. So Marty says he's not coming. Start texting people. I text Isner, and I said, I don't have a partner. He says, that sucks. We'll probably beat you then. And he said, I got to give Isner credit. He said, listen, like, Tommy's the kind of, like, he might just jump in because he kind of likes doing fun stuff. And so I was like, I don't know that that's true. So I texted our friend Jeremy, I texted Gimmel, they got in touch with you. I land like 50 minutes later, and Tommy Paul's in the XO. But I also texted Isner, I said, watch this shit. So what's going to happen is if Tommy Paul commits like you think he might, Andre's going to flip the teams. and you're gonna get stuck with me, and I'm gonna get stuck with you. And that's exactly what happened.
That's why I'm the tournament director.
So Andre gets the number 12 player in the world on his side of the net, is what you're saying.
I mean, I guess if I had won 8 slams, I'd probably be negotiating for Tommy Paul as well.
That's why I'm the tournament director, Andy.
Yeah,
I can make
okay.
those changes.
All right, so let's just get to it.
Yeah.
Why'd you try to move the tournament, Bob? Okay, just side note, Bob's the one who saved it here. I just wanted that deal. So,
And I'm not the one who lives in Charlotte, Andy.
hey, listen, I love Cincy. I thought it was moving, and then I was like, hey, listen, I might get a job if I don't know. But
Yeah.
walk us through, in all seriousness,
Sure.
joking aside and without throwing you under the bus, because you've been so great with this tournament. I can't wait to see the facility. I've been hearing unbelievable feedback from the players that is slightly different than what I experienced 20 years ago. So credit there. Great things are being whispered behind your back. Hopefully you hear some of it to your face this week as well. But walk us through the process, right?
Yeah.
Your group comes in with Ben Navarro. Obviously there's this great event, Masters 1000, where the sister cities to a Masters 1000 event, Shanghai, Paris, Monte-Carlo, Rome, Madrid. Larry Ellison took one to the desert. Miami. This is serious stuff. This is a serious responsibility. Walk us through the process and how we ended up right back here in Cincinnati.
No, absolutely. Andy, thanks for being here. And hey, before I get there, 2 things. This is called Causing a Racket. It's our beer that we created with Sonder. It's awesome. And number 2, never, ever put me up after a supermodel, okay? No, it was good. Listen, the process was amazing. You know, when I talked with Ben about having a presence in tennis, there's only one thing you want to do if you really want to have a presence in tennis. I run a women's event in Charleston. I've been doing that for 25 years. But in order to have a presence, you have to be a Masters 1000. You do. And they don't come open very often. And so when the opportunity came open, reached out to Ben Navarro, who was my owner at the time, and said, hey, this is an opportunity. And Ben's from the Midwest. He spent some time here. His dad was a football coach at a bunch of different schools, and he spent significant time here, and he loved the idea. To Charlotte's credit, they came hard and aggressive when they heard we bought it. And like I said, we weren't out looking, but they came searching. So it opened the door. And so what we did was just say that we got to figure out what Cincinnati can be. So I actually moved up here. Where's my team? Maggie, Marina. I moved up here. Yeah, the gang. Probably May of last year, and I just had one mission. One mission was, what do we need to do to keep it here? No question about it. What do we need to do? And what I found out is this city is passionate. This city is not just passionate about tennis. It's passionate about football. It's passionate about baseball. It's passionate about soccer. I was not a soccer fan until I came here. It's pretty awesome. And there's a guy here who name's Dave Young. He's commissioner of Warren County. Dave Young, wherever you are, raise your damn hand because that man stepped up and made it happen. There we go. Dave right there. And Dave really stood up, and with the city of Mason, Warren County, and the state of Ohio, just matched step for step what Charlotte was doing for us. And what it came down to is what the event was going to be last year, and that's what we drove for last year was, hey, let's put on the best show we can. Let's make sure everything is perfect. And last year was a record setter for every measurable detail we could possibly have. And, at the end of the day, Ben's like, why are we not staying in Cincinnati? And there it is. We're here.
This is a great event for Cincinnati. Obviously, it's very much appreciated you're here. But you know what else this is? This is like a regional event. I get people that are saying, oh, I hope to see you in Cincinnati.
Good point.
And you're like,
Good
what?
point.
You live in Denver. Oh, yeah, we come every year.
Yep.
I don't know what 2/3 of the fans come from outside of Cincinnati. What is it like running an event like this where we're here, we're in Southwest Ohio, but this has really become a national tennis tournament?
International, John. And let me tell you, I've had 2 beers now, so I'm going to speak freely. So, past ownership probably treated this more like a lead-in tournament to the U.S. Open. Quite honestly, that's how it was marketed. That's how it was.
the U.S. Open.
Heard of it.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought this was a
Yeah.
US
Who cares about that?
So our job was to make sure that everyone came to this event, and for the reasons we're here, for Cincinnati, for Mason, Ohio, for Warren County, to be part of something that's special. And our whole marketing program just shifted. And so now we have 50 states, every state. What was the last one? South Dakota, I think it was. And then 40 different countries where people are coming. All right,
that's
it
cool.
means a lot to this community. The fans here drove it, but it is an international event, truly part of the Master Series. And it's something that you are not going to get a better field. You're not going to get better access. You're going to have such a special experience that it's difference making.
Talk about, cheers to that. Talk about what's on tap, whether it's facility. I know this year, every year you go, from the Whisper campaign that I get, every time my group of friends that are still on tour get on site, there's this little text thread that I can never sell out, but it's there. And you hear good rumblings always when the players land here. I know this year there are some changes, and I know there are some big changes for next year. What can we expect in the immediate future and then moving forward here in Cincinnati for the fan experience as well as the players?
No, that's a great question. And last year was about the player experience. How do we make, you're a player, right?
Not anymore.
Yeah, but you were.
Far from it.
It was about how do we make the experience for the players better, and we really focused a lot of effort on that. And I think we accomplished our goals last year. Players, I think, walked away from here thinking this was a best-in-class experience. This year, it's about the fans. We changed every seat in the house. That's no easy task.
Wait, what do you mean by that? Are you you're exaggerating? What do you mean every seat in the house?
Every seat in the house. So 12,000 seats in stadium and 4,500 seats on grandstand are all brand new. Everything.
All right.
Hey, I speak on behalf of all of their butts. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, we actually renovated all of our fan areas for fans who've been here for a while coming. It's called Top Deck, is now a whole new experience, something that fans in the past maybe just walked around and said, this is nice, but maybe I'm not going to sit down.
Yeah.
They'll sit down. They'll have a good time.
We can sit down now.
They'll enjoy.
Way to go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So really just looked at how do we make this experience better. Our fan zone with live music and, the difference from last year to this year, fans spend an average of 6 to 6.5 hours with us. Last year they spent 8.5 hours with us.
Good for you.
All right. I mean, those are the things that tell us everything, that we're doing the right thing. So this year it is still more about fans. We did build more practice courts though, because we need more practice courts. But what's coming in 2025 is we went from 17 practice courts last year to 17 total courts last year, 21 this year, 31 next year.
Which by the way, keep on that thought. I'm just going to interrupt for a second. So the magic from a player's perspective, when I came here, and the energy on site in the couple of days leading into the event, right, were the practice areas, and they're not what they're gonna be. But for me, the passion I felt in Cincinnati was unmatched anywhere else I went. As far as these Masters 1000s, they're separate. You go to like Shanghai, and it's like you're out in a practice court that no one can get to. I love the fact in players we want to feel the energy from the fans. It makes us better. So I am glad. And there's no better place, and we can get that feeling in a lot of stadiums. Okay, like we can walk into various stadiums around Earth, and you get that feedback when you're playing a match. But here specifically, I wish somehow, some way I could prove this to you, but I can't. But here specifically, when you get on site, the practice areas, I always looked forward to it, whether it's warming up for a match, whether it's day off practice, or whether it's the lead-in. That's the special sauce of this tournament, in my opinion. So I'm happy you're investing in that.
This vibe here is what you're taking out there. Let me ask you guys a question. Does anyone have seats in the first 4 rows in the stadium? Just by you want to tell them what's known as?
No one raised their hand, John.
I saw a bunch of hands back there.
All right. If you're behind the baseline and you have a seat in the first 4 rows, they are air conditioned. Yes.
Whoa.
Oh well, good for you, rich people.
However, for those of you who have ever sat upstairs, up on the top level that were just bleachers, those are all seats.
See, but that's
See that, John?
All right.
so. Jon Wertheim he does this podcast because I think he just felt guilt about potentially saying no. Jon Wertheim is a 60 Minutes journalist, and that's not a
question right there.
So, having said that, you really messed that up, John. So you got to lead with the seats and then say, oh, and there are air conditioning in some of them.
This
Yes.
is a toss-up. This was like my low lob that you were going to smash into the second row. Which
Oh,
is
I
air
took advantage
which
of it
is
on
air
the second
conditioned.
serve.
Talk to us about the expansion. 31 practice courts next year.
So part of the reason we're staying here, and part of the reason there was this change, we go from a 56 draw to a 96 draw. So Andy, that means, back in the day when you were playing, it was a player plus one, maybe player plus two. It's now a player plus 5. So we have 790 people we take care of this week. This week, we're responsible for feeding them, housing them, all of that. It turns to 1,500 people next year. So 96 players on both sides. So we need,
You're talking about the entourage and the coaches. And
Oh,
the
yeah,
trainers
absolutely. And so we need new dining facilities. We need a new gym. We need new locker rooms. We need new everything. So what we're doing
Gluten-free,
is,
hyperbaric chambers, all of
Yes.
it. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there you go. I see you.
So everything next year turns into a full build to accommodate all of those people. So all new builds. I mean, as soon as the tournament, the last ball is struck, we start tearing everything up. And the good news for this community is, in the past, that event would operate, and I think anyone here who's from around here just said, what the hell do they do the rest of the year, right? From now on, we will have a full-service tennis facility, full-service racket facility. We'll have junior programs, adult programs. We'll be doing special events in and out. Yes.
I got to be honest. This has been a cool experience, and about one of my favorite parts is when you said, "So what did we do the rest of the year?" I bet you're wondering, and everyone's going,
I saw it.
I did too, and I lost my train of thought because I was laughing. This is a specific year, and we know that this is probably a busy time for you leading into the tournament. Give us your take on. We talked about it quickly with Metteo about scheduling. So you say 96 players, and I hear we're adding a week, and that's going to go into December. From a player's perspective, I'm going, okay, now we've been working hard since I can remember, since I've been on tour, to shorten the schedule, but then your side wants to add weeks. What's the common ground?
What do you mean my side?
Do you own a tennis tournament?
We do.
Your side.
Yeah, we're all one, Andy. We're all one. I got to be careful. I'm not so worried about Andy asking me questions as the guy to my left. All right? He's 60 Minutes Sports Illustrated.
He won't put anything in the mailbag.
Yeah, I'm in a
day
lot of
from
trouble.
now.
No.
3 guys talking and
It'll be fine.
Yeah.
It'll be fine.
So-
No one's listening.
So this is where Andy and I are going to get into, and I'm glad I had 2 beers. But quite honestly, it's a give and take with players and tournaments. We own the tour together, but we had a big discussion before we all walked out here about all of that. And you're going to see his head shaking, and I'm going to say, yeah. But it's about how do we raise more money, both from a prize money perspective for the players, and from a tournament perspective, it's how do we bring more jobs to the market. It's what they want. What are you writing down, man?
Don't you worry about me.
I don't have a pen or paper.
We did the Chamber of Commerce part. Let's go.
like a deposition.
So listen, I think the difference between us, I think we're the perfect answer for what you're talking about. The 2-week events are tough. If an American is playing in Rome and Madrid and playing in those 2 weeks and loses first round, what do? Where do they go? It's tough,
Ibiza.
right? So
No, that's where you all go when you don't have to play.
So the tough part is, and what Andy's getting to is, it's a physical sport, not like it's ever been. And I get that as a tournament operator. I recognize it every day. I picked Iga Swiatek up from the airport. She had 9 suitcases. And why is that? She's been on the road since Australia, which is the beginning of the year. She won't get home to her home in Poland until after Riyadh.
Till a week later than she would have been before you guys expanded to 2 weeks.
But we did not expand it to...
Thank you for having us.
To be clear, we did not. I think we're the right answer. So Madrid, Rome, Miami, Indian Wells, they are 2 weeks. So If you take them together, they're 4 weeks. What we are going to become between Tennis Canada and Cincinnati is 3 weeks.
Smart.
We're going to share it.
Smart.
So the players have a place to go. If they lose in Canada, they can come here. We've had players on the grounds for the last 5 days. Why? Because we can handle it. We're there. And the players need a place to go. We're always going to accommodate that. So you're still writing this stuff down.
Always.
So 3 weeks is, I think, the right answer. And I'm eager to see how it works out because it's not the 4 weeks or 2 weeks and 2 weeks.
Hey, listen, I know I'm not speaking on behalf of these fans here because they'll take all the weeks that
Yes.
you wanted to give them, am I right? I do think, and I won't dig down. I don't.
You want to so bad.
I do want to, but you're only here for a little bit. I have a show every week, so I can get to it. Listen, 3 weeks is definitely less bad than 4 weeks. I do think you're selling people a bridge if you say, hey, we give a day of rest in between matches. I got to think the players would rather have those days at the end of the year to train and create a better product. But 3 weeks is more responsible than your sister events who take up a month for 2 events, which is great for the top players, and it's less great for people that want more opportunities to get points, cash, et cetera, et cetera. In all seriousness, I thank you. We were putting together the EXO for tomorrow, and we put in the request. I said, hey, listen, crazy idea. Is there any way that we could do a live show in Cincinnati? And your answer was yes, and I know it was probably from your side, yes, and we'll figure it out later, but I appreciate that being your go-to move, yes, and we'll figure it out later. I think tennis is better for it. I think tennis is better for your group. I think Cincinnati, you all still have a Masters 1000 event. And because of that, I'm not going to be tournament director for 50 years in Charlotte. But I digress. That's fine. I love coming here to Cincy. Hopefully we can all take a joke. Bob, congrats on everything. I wish you nothing but the best in the future. And thank you for having served.
Appreciate it.
One of the good guys.
No, but we are going to do Q&A.
Yeah, I think we should open up to
Should we just do some Q&A for a little while?
We're crushing it on time because the interviews were incredible.
Will you make Tommy wear his medal tomorrow?
That's a great question.
Yeah, so Tommy Paul, that's probably not my decision. I'm curious. We had a great story on a previous episode of Served. We had Bob and Mike Bryan on, and it was one of the funniest stories. Those two together, when they're actually like opening up and letting it rip, is hilarious. The public-facing side is like the Doublemint twins. They've done more for tennis. They're always smiling. They're always up and about. But I asked them, like, what did you do with your gold medal? And Bob was like, I took it to every bar. It was worn out. It was frayed by the end of it. He goes, it wasn't even a circle. It was like a square at the end. And he goes, and then I went and visited Mike. They ended up living on separate coasts after not actually having been more than 5 feet apart for the previous 2 decades. And Mike's was, he took it, he put it in a case, he built a light for it, so everyone walked in was like, you were amongst a gold medalist. And Bob stole Mike's and replaced it with his crappy one.
That's my favorite story.
But credit to Tommy and Taylor for playing doubles. Taylor doesn't play doubles that often, and they brought home a bronze medal for the USA, so I appreciate the question.
Yeah.
Do your kids like tennis?
Do my kids like tennis? Yeah, they like it. They take some lessons. So I'll tell you, it's turning into funny stories. So my son, how old are you? 10? So I have an 8-year-old son, so about to turn 9. So we don't really have anything from our former lives in our house. From tennis, I don't really have anything like couple of trophies that when people get drunk and they're at the house, they want to see. Those are you should never drink.
10 years old. Did you not catch the 10?
I caught it, but listen, at some point you got to learn. So my son went to kindergarten not knowing much, and then he came home from kindergarten and he goes, Dad, did you play pro tennis? And I said yes. And so long story short, my son thought I was tennis teacher for a long time. So they liked tennis, but then what happened was you tell him something like, oh yeah, I was a pro tennis player. What was your highest ranking? I was like, it was 1. And so then he goes, my dad's the best ever. And so it went from me being like totally fine. He didn't know that mommy did something on television. He didn't know that daddy did something on television. To him just lying to anyone who would hear about it. To him being like, when someone would be like, oh, your dad would mention tennis, and then I would get embarrassed because he would basically go way too far with overselling. They like it. My son's favorite player is Carlos Alcaraz. He loves Carlos Alcaraz. Who's your favorite player?
Who's
Sinner.
that? Sinner.
Cool. La Carata. Very cool. We're lucky to have a couple of guys like Sinner, Alcaraz for that next generation. Hey, thank you for coming out tonight. I'm sorry I used potty language. I appreciate you being here.
Okay, so mad respect to Andy, but my question's for John, actually.
Totes.
Yeah. In your opinion, what is the top storyline on the men's and women's side that you are following right now that you think are kind of insidery and most interesting to you?
Oh, man. Interesting to me? I have perverse tastes. The 37-year-old that won Olympic gold in his rematch against the kid who also won Wimbledon. And I'm just looking at this. This is macro. This isn't micro. The macro is, on the men's side, I think, Rafa did it in 2010, I believe. But Roger Novak did not ever win the French Wimbledon and the U.S. Open. So here comes this 21-year-old who might be able to achieve something. As far as, I don't know. I mean, I think I'm interested in sort of where this sport is headed. And the big picture about tennis is it's a wonderful sport. It's men, it's women. It travels all around the world. It's guys that are 21 and guys that are 37. And the big challenge is just how tennis makes this work and how tennis maximizes all of its virtues. And some of that is staying in a market like this and cultivating a fan base and having a 125-year event. And some of it is going to new markets. The women are going to Saudi Arabia to play their year-end event. That's really interesting. That could go really well and be a new market with all sorts of money. That could also go really badly. So I think tennis always serves up these great storylines. And the players, as you saw with Matteo, I mean, you're totally right. I mean, 99 out of 100. I mean, it's really good, solid people. The tennis player's heart, I'll take over any other athlete. But I'm also sort of interested in the big picture of how does this sport that we all appreciate, you guys all appreciate, it's Friday night and we're all talking tennis in Mason, Ohio. How cool is that? But imagine what a Bengals game is like the weekend before a Bengals game. And tennis has some growing to do. And I think the big challenge for tennis is you have all this raw material, men, women. I mean, there's so many great assets, but how do you put it all together and make this sport as good as it could be? So Alcaraz, Novak, can tennis maximize its potential?
I have I'm gonna butt in here. So you mentioned Novak in the Olympics, and last week's show, if you haven't heard it, it's basically just like, listen, I don't care who you're a fan of, because the knee-jerk reaction and the thing I hate the most with any time you comment on any of the big three, if you compliment one, you get the other side coming and saying, yeah, blah, 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 blah. I've simultaneously loved and hated all of them in the last 12 minutes on Twitter, if you would judge by my responses. Novak winning gold, it's just not normal to go into an event that you deem the most important of your year, at this point in your career, probably the most important event that you have left in your career. It's the only thing you don't have. Selfish. It was a joke.
Well, what about how he owned it?
But also, like, let's think of this. Okay, you have the greatness of Novak, which is there. It's signed, sealed, delivered. I put it very simply. If you had 3 resumes, his is probably the one you choose. Anything else is what you like better stylistically, what they meant to the game. Those are all side conversations. The math is pretty specific on one. You have had in a very outsized amount of access to Novak, the man we saw do what he did beat the current best player on earth at 37 years old on his least favorite surface, go through that tournament without losing a set. You did a 60 minutes piece on him last year where you went to Serbia, and then you got him his first cover, I think, on Sports Illustrated. Recently, talk us through what you felt while you were watching him play Carlos at the Olympics, and what's one thing that we probably don't get about Novak that you do from having proximity to him?
Oh man, you're putting me on the spot. All right, I'll give you this one because
They don't like answering questions. They only like asking them.
How many times do we see athletes try to minimize expectation and pressure? And the knee-jerk
good point.
response is, I could win a Super Bowl, but it's not the end-all, be-all. And there's always this sort of reflexive desire to sort of minimize pressure. Novak Djokovic in November tells me, the real thing I really want is an Olympic medal. This wasn't because we're so tight that he's revealing this deep. I mean, he almost put more pressure on himself to motivate himself by being very public and saying, Olympic gold medal, that's what's missing, that's what I'm going for, that's going to make this year special, that's what I'm prioritizing. That's really rare for an athlete, especially at his stage in his career, to own it like that. And basically, he's 37. I mean, eligibility on the Power Shares Tour is 35. So this guy's 2 years into playing senior tennis, and he has knee surgery.
I was 32.
And he goes to Wimbledon, gets to the final, and loses in straight sets to this kid who just seems to be more dynamic. And then 3 Sundays later, he completely flips the script at the event that he's been saying for months and months and months, this is my hill that I'm going to die on. I mean, he's really extraordinary, and he's really different. And I think Roger and Rafa are, at some level, they're very easy to root for. Their gifts are obvious. You spend 30 seconds. I mean, this Novak, I think, in a way, is a much more complex character. But for an athlete to basically say, this is what I'm shooting for, which is completely contrary to what most athletes do, and then to go out there and do it on a busted leg, he clearly went out there and just said, I don't care what it takes. I am not leaving this court with the smaller numbers on the scoreboard. It's as simple as that. And he goes out there and plays as well as he's played. This is his first title of the year. He hadn't won a tournament this year.
He hadn't beaten a top 10 player going into the Olympics for the entire year.
So then at the one event he has prioritized, he goes out and plays the match of his life. And it's like what you say. I mean, we all, every fan, it's natural. It's part of what we love about sports. We have irrational and rational likes, but you cannot look at his body of work and not say that this is wildly impressive. So I guess that's what I say.
Let's go. Any more questions from the crowd? We don't have a dinner reservation for like an hour.
We got a couple more questions in us.
Yeah.
First of all, huge fan of your podcast. I listened to like 0 podcasts, and then I saw yours on Instagram. I was like, this is my podcast. So I look forward to it every Tuesday. I look to see if it's up yet, so love it. Side question, where is Social Sophie?
Family reunion.
My bigger question is, I'd love to hear from you guys, like if you're looking in the range of like the top ranked like 11 to like 30, like in that range of players on women's and men's side, like who are the ones you think are going to break through to like the top 5? Who has like the mental game, the whole package, developing the whole package?
John, why don't you go first, buddy?
That's a good question. No, we used to play this game. No, but I think, Metteo was just here. He spent a few years, you heard him say it, he was 22 and no one really knew who he was. I mean, I think so. It used to play this game of like finding the alternative band you think was going to blow up and play. Now it's like, they're players like Alex Diminor, for example. I mean, they're players in their mid to late 20s who still have like a run potentially to make. I mean, off the top of my, Arthur Fils of France is a guy who a lot of people is quite high on, who won a tournament last month. Musetti, who we've known for a while, but
he's still sneaky, only 23, and it feels like he's been around for a decade.
He's got a kid, and we assume he's like dad, and he's like, he's 20, he's like younger than Sinner. And he's finally.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Oh, look at you, Jon Wertheim.
Keep an eye on this. There's a kid, Alcaraz, he's very young. He hasn't quite harnessed all of his gifts, but keep an eye on this guy, Alcaraz. But I think tennis is in a different place. It used to be if you didn't make noise when you were 22, 23 years old, your career, it was what it was, and you may have a breakout major, and then sort of, now you see players having these latter career surges. And I think there are more of those that people might expect, of guys who say, look, I'm not happy being number 18. It's a nice life. I make a nice living. I travel the world. I have a romantic partner. I want to be better. And I think I'm almost more interested in that than who's the 19-year-old. I don't know, who else? We have a new gold medal winner who now is worth watching, who also reached the finals in Australia. But I mean, honestly, like Naomi Osaka, what happens to her, that's every bit as interesting to me as what, Mira Andreeva, what teenager can take that next leap. So, I think sometimes we look for and certainly the brands and Nike, I mean, certainly we all look for the shiny new toys, but I think what's interesting to me in tennis now is the players' ages maybe 24 to 27. Which of them are not satisfied? Sort of like working in who's ambitious, who's going to buck for the promotion and like get out of middle management. So I don't know. Alex de Minaur, for example, is someone that interests me.
So,
I don't know. Can you jump in? What
yeah,
am
I will.
missing?
I just a quick look through, and this is a question I avoided like the plague for a long time, or thought of some word salad to say a lot of stuff without saying anything at all. If you're looking at the rankings, you're looking at a Tommy Paul, who's now 10 in the world. You're looking at a Taylor Fritz, who's knocking on the door. You're looking at Sebastian Korda, who every time I watch him, I think he's top 5 in the world, and then I read a draw and it's not going, but he won last week in Washington. Ben Shelton, I feel like he's still learning how to play tennis. Like, he was in college, 2 years ago. He didn't have a passport when he went to Australia last year. That's not a joke.
Crazy.
That's an actual thing. That's like a real stat. Like, it's not sarcasm. So I actually think we're looking at Americans in that conversation for the first time, maybe in a long time. And similar to what our new friend Berrettini said earlier, I am such a massive fan of a healthy jealousy, especially when it's in the same country. You look at the 80s in the States, all of a sudden, Andre's the guy, he breaks out in Stratton Mountain or where the hell it was in 1988, finishes 87, finishes 3 in the world in 88, is the guy, is the guy that crosses over, he's the mainstream standout star. And then Pete comes and wins the US Open and takes his lunch. And then Chang beats him in 88, in 89 at the French Open, beats Lendl and breaks through before both of them. And then Courier gets to number 1 before all of them. And I think, and then Andre delivers, and then it's just this deluge of jealousy, but not in a bad way. But like he was talking about with Cecchinato earlier, wait, that guy made the semis? I can do that. I know him. I beat him. I can play with him. So for the first time in a long time on the men's side, we have as good a chance to plant our flag as anyone else. And I like the fact that they're all lined up 10, 12, 13, 14, all 15, all lined up right there. That is a recipe for something good to happen. That's before we get to who they're influencing by being that ranking. Guy I was ranking to the 16s out, Mensik, someone to keep an eye out. If you see him this week, he's got some firepower. On the women's side, Kostyuk is super tough from Ukraine. She can really play. Kalinskaya, otherwise known as Mrs. Sinner, not yet.
It's been like 90 days.
can hit the ball really big and is finally finding confidence. I always look for those players who have been on tour, but then they actually start finding the court with more frequency. She can play, and someone he mentioned, Mira Andreeva. It's impressive to me and fascinating when someone doesn't have. I had a big serve, and then I could kind of figure it out from there. Same with Ben Shelton. Her tennis IQ is better than most of the people on tour, and she's 17, 18. Can switch directions, which people don't give it enough credit, but that's Novak's superpower, is the ability to take you out of whatever pattern you want because he can switch directions. Rafa hits that high like Vamos Chico forehand, and with all of us forever, we're out of our strike zone. Novak's the only one that can knock that down to his backhand comfortably while not upping the risk profile. And then traffic goes through his forehand again. His ability to find the matchup he wants in the point is superhuman. I'm not saying Andreeva's that. I'm saying she's flirting with that.
We got time for one more.
Let's do one more.
Check. Oh no, if there's somebody in the back there.
We'll get to.
Andy, can I ask you something that I have a 12-year-old son whose serve is just popping.
Yep.
And I said, you've got to watch this video of this guy whose serves is insane. He serves it and it buries it into the clay.
You're not going to like this answer.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you felt when that happened?
You're going to hate this.
Should we tell him?
What?
Should we tell him?
Should we let the myth live on, or should we? Are we going to take this out to pasture?
I mean,
let's take it out to pasture. That was fake. So he asked about So it was a Powerade commercial. Back when they had the things with all the athletes doing crazy stuff, and Kelly Slater was coming off of a wave that was the size of a skyscraper. So that was actually not even a clay court. So if you go look, there's a video of I hit a serve. Tricky camera work. It gets stuck. It didn't get stuck. So what they did was they cut a tennis ball in half. They put it there, and then a makeup artist went and put orange dust around it. And then they asked me to do the easiest acting job that's ever existed. They said, can you just go get mad at the umpire for a second? And I said yes, and that's that.
by the way, I believed it was real too until he told me.
Yeah. So that's that. Let's do. Do you have something on that?
Just feel free to tell your son something entirely different.
I felt great. I was awesome.
All right. I'm sorry.
With Queen, I mean, listen. There's the question was about the controversy with Queen Wen and Emma Navarro at the Olympics. Listen. I'll tell you this. I got into people's business many, many times on the court. And I would say that 95% of those didn't have a history past that day or night. We're going to yell at each other. We're going to be annoyed by things. Danielle got into it with Iga. I'd be shocked if 3 weeks from now they're not okay. They're not fine. We mentioned Novak. I mean, I still get smoked by his fans for something that happened 16 years ago that we talked about that night and let go. And what I should have done is never mention it again in my entire life. And that was my mistake. Point B, Yeah, I think Emma Navarro will be top 10. She's 15 right now. I think she's phenomenal. I think it was, I don't know. Listen, we fight. Then we see each other the next week. Maybe we're a little icy. Then that thaws out. And by the end of it, we're all fine. I'll tell you a quick story, and then we're going to get out of here. Speaking of a generational thaw. So I'm working with Jimmy Connors in the summer of 2006. And it's weird because we go back to the U.S. Open, and he hasn't been there since the new stadium exists. He's one of the main reasons why it was built, right? He took U.S. Open mainstream, made it theater, right? Largely doesn't get talked about enough when people are naming things at the U.S. Open, in my humble opinion. Won the tournament on 3 different surfaces. I don't even know how that's possible. It's hard to win it on one. So we go in, and sure as shit, the first person we see when we go into the locker room walking towards us, like the Tuesday of practice week, who did we come across? McEnroe. So we walk in, and Jimmy and I are walking in. I'm having to show Jimmy around the U.S. Open, which is like the weirdest thing in itself. So we walk past each other. They each make eye contact, and then they keep walking. Don't say a word. So they're like this. I stop in the middle, and I go, "Are you serious? Are we being serious?" And so they go, "Oh, hey, Jimmy. Hey, Mac. Okay. You guys are children." So anyway, fast forward. First Saturday, I win a third round against a guy named Julian Benneteau. And I normally played at night. CBS comes in on weekends. You play day for the U.S. audience. So I finish, and it's kind of early-ish, which is great. I'm done by 2 or 3 in the afternoon. I'm normally finished at the U.S. Open at 2 or 3 in the morning. And so I don't see Jimmy. It's not a big deal. Like, you'll text and we'll meet you back in the city later. Maybe we have dinner that night. Maybe we don't. But so I'm like, okay, I'm going to run up. And my trainer, Doug Spreen, who's Terrace Park guy right here in Cincinnati, I said, you seen Jimmy? No. I said, okay, I'm going to run up to the player dining area. And the player dining area looks out on all those practice courts that you see on TV, right? The first 5 courts there. But you can see it from the player dining area. You look out and you can watch people hit. And I look down in the last court. Who do I see hitting together? Connors and McEnroe. And to the point where, like, we become pretty, like, immune to cool stuff. Like, at a certain point, like, I think stuff's cooler now because I'm not around the tour all the time. Then I was kind of like, you'd see someone practice, it's like, whatever, Roger, it's fine. And so I look down there, but there's like a crowd of like 80 people in the players area, like players, watching this hit go on. So I stand there and watch for a little bit. I'm kind of feeling proud of myself. I'm like, you called these 2 jerks out, and like now they're down there hitting, and it's great. And so I get my smoothie or whatever it was. I go back down. You know, Doug and I stretch. We do the whole thing. We're about to leave, packing up our bags, and Jimmy walks in just soaked, like in khakis from what he watched the match in. Like, he had no business out there playing. And so I won't use the language, but just assume that there was a expletive. So I said, how was it? Man, that was so cool. Like, I can't believe, like, that's all, like, this is great. I feel like I'm like 9 again. This is amazing. And he goes, well, then we played a set. I was like, okay. He goes, that effing McEnroe's still a prick. Thank you for coming out. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks, everyone.